Hello everybody, welcome to Raising Vibrations. You were Simon today, and in today's video we're going to be talking a little bit about the astrology of the moment, of course, and just sharing a little bit of insight into the current sort of nature that we are all moving through at this stage, and hopefully giving us something to focus on at this really interesting and bizarre time that we're all collectively sharing at the moment. So as the thumbnail suggests, the picture suggests, this is a time where, as we talked about in the most recent live stream, of deep psychological, emotional, and spiritual change for the entire collective human race. And what seems to be very clear and evident at the moment is a massive diversity of information that is available on the internet for everybody to take in. And what looks like a really intense overstimulation of fear, hysteria, and panic, which adds to the intense layer of confusion that can also be very present with all of us right now. Okay, which, you know, it's actually quite natural, I think, when it comes to the current energetic signature that we are all experiencing under this COVID-19 shared collective outbreak. Okay. Now, I am not in this video, or myself and Jen are not going to advocate any direct opinion. This is looking at the situation from an astrological perspective. There are, of course, many other perspectives that exist, and I think that's something that's really interesting to speak to, considering that the moon, as I'm recording this, which of course will have moved past the 16 degree Sagittarius marker. So if I show you over here, right, there's the moon at the moment. And as you can see, I've drawn up a chart here that looks very different in terms of the chart that I normally have. And what I've done here is I've actually added the planetary nodes. In the live stream I just did a couple of days ago, I talked about the planetary nodes being highly activated at the moment. So as you can see, there's the south node of Uranus. It's sitting at 17 degrees Sagittarius. That's the ley line, as it were, the kind of evolutionary trajectory of human individual consciousness. It's in the constellation Sagittarius. So, you know, again, not wanting to get too deep into that, but there's the moon. It's currently at the moment crossing over that period, or that section. So, and my south node actually sits at exactly 16 degrees Sagittarius as well. So what I wanted to say about that was that it seems to me that it's very evident around the world that there are so many different diverse perspectives, and that can be incredibly overwhelming at this point in time, particularly because we have access to information online that can be both very clear, supportive, and practical, while at the same time very confusing and eliciting even more anxiety and cause for panic and fear. So what I encourage you to do during this period of time, considering that, again, as I talked about in the live stream, that Neptune is sitting at 18 degrees, and that 18 degree mark is exactly square the south node of Uranus. So Neptune is the archetype of mass hysteria, panic, confusion, blurredness, and also immunity. And that system over there, or that planetary archetype, is directly squaring the planetary nodes of Neptune, of Uranus. So we are right smack bang in the middle of this symbolism of Neptune squaring the planetary node of Uranus, and so it's a collective issue. And as I said again, with the sun moving across that point over the last few days, the highlighted energy, or the highlighted frequency of this Neptunian symbolism has become very apparent to us. Like this, the sun is a flashlight, and so it like just really brought an intense illumination to the square. And as I said, the planetary nodes are deeply ingrained collective streams of awareness. And so when the planet hits those critical points, or those points, we all experience it. It just becomes available to all of us. So with that symbolism over there, the natural square that takes place between Sagittarius and Pisces in the astrology chart or in the natural zodiac, that square tension suggests confusion. What's right? What's real? What's real? What's not real? And it's also about how we are interfacing with the diversity of multiple perspectives across all of the globe. Okay, so all of the people from all over the world, this is the cultural experience, South Node, and things like social media, for instance, would be the Neptune archetype, where you have groups that are forming, and those groups have got everybody from all over the world sharing their experiences and their information all over. So there's a Facebook group where it's called COVID-19 Updates, and you just notice everybody from all over the world just kind of joining that and participating and sharing their information, asking questions, and this kind of global sharing, while at the same time you also have your feed and the YouTube feed just massively overloaded with tons and tons of videos about everybody that's an expert on this. And I think that for me personally, it sounds like it's really important to be very, very clear, discerning, and really get in touch with your own internal guidance system that turns around and says, yes, that can be trusted. No, this sounds to be a little bit ungrounded and more of an ideology or a perspective bias. It's very, very important at this point in time, I think. And that in of itself advocates an incredible crisis, because it leads to a sense of, okay, well, what can I trust? You know, what is there that I can trust? And I would say to that, from my own direct experience, is in your immediate environment, like in your senses, when you're getting overwhelmed with so much information, when you're getting overwhelmed with so much just what's like anxiety and fear and panic, is just to kind of step back for a moment and close yourself off from the exposure to the open sourced energy that is available there. Close yourself off and just take deep breaths, right? Just come back to your senses, come back to this moment right now. Let's come back to this moment right now. So it's a very important dynamic that can be held there. Now, as I said, this is a time where we are under a tremendous amount of subconscious and collective rearrangement, and it's coming through shock. And the shock is eliciting a shift in human direction. The shock is eliciting a shift in human direction. As I said, when was the last time that you made a change in your life where the situation was like, hey, by the way, I think you should make a change in life. Oh yeah, I'll do that. Now I'll get back to that. Now I'll do that. And then all of a sudden, at some point, there's a critical crisis that takes place, and you're like, oh yeah, okay, I'll make it. Because the boundary and the severity of the situation is so close to home that then promotes action. And right now, what can be very difficult to digest, which is completely normal, is that our sense of connection to reality and the way that we have culturally and globally structured our way of being, whether you're awake to the experience or not, doesn't matter. We're all participating in this, and that's the shock in that sense, is we collectively need to change the path, and all of us need to go along that road. And this is a time where, as I mentioned before, with all of those planets sitting in Capricorn, as you can see here, all of those planets in Capricorn, right? There's my little marker, my little thing. It won't actually go further than that, but you can see all those planets in Capricorn there, right? Mars in Capricorn, it's like, sit down, be still. Like, that's Mars's sort of attention. In Capricorn limitations. So you have one energy that wants to burst through with freedom, and the other energy is trying to contain stuff. And so you have this interesting dynamic that shows up in different political spheres, where one, we don't know how to contain it, we don't know how to box things in, and it feels like it's just dissolving all the boundaries and it's just permeating everywhere, and there's just chaos and amok around. Yet in the state of stillness, we hear something really, really incredible, and it's life. And it sounds silly, it sounds super silly, but it's the truth. This is a time where you need to recede back to yourself. You need to recede back to your own inner sense of self. And this abstract notion looks like coming back to what's really real for you in this moment. And this energy is just pushing that dynamic. And the change has already occurred. The shift has already occurred. Where the trauma exists, with Uranus sitting here at the moment, with Venus in Taurus, I mean, if anybody, you know how I've talked about, it was funny because you know how in a couple of videos ago, I talked about living archetypes. And I talked about moving astrology from the intellect to the feeling orientated base. Well, I wasn't kidding when I said that what's challenging for us as a human sort of psychological development is that we look to astrology to calm our fears most of the time. We look to astrology to develop deeper, better understanding of our personality traits. But one of the things that we can also tap into, which is incredibly profound, is the actual feeling of the archetype, the notion of what it feels like to live it. And for every single person that's watching this video right now, it is now deeply apparent to you that you know what Taurus is. It is survival. It is hoarding. It is fearing for your life in the sense of what is going to happen when the resources end. Where do we have enough resources? Think about how governments are, like in the UK, for instance, right? They're putting out information saying this is the strategy we need to take. That's the approach that we need to take. And underlying root there is our essential needs. Everybody's worried about their essential needs. Everybody's isolating themselves. Self-isolation, Taurus. I can look after myself, Taurus. Everything that you see in terms of the things that we're using as proactive ways, that's the Taurus archetype. And for those of you that are born between 1984 and 1995 who have got Pluto in Scorpio, you know that your polarity point is Taurus. This is it. So the essence of the message today, as the symbols show up here, is that we are in a time of deep collective shifting. The shift has already taken place. Jupiter, culturally, it's taken place. And we are, and how that shift has taken place is, in most cases, look at what this has shown us in terms of how we will, under a circumstance, just go to the store and we'll purchase all the things, we'll get our resources, and we realize the bargain. This is what Mars, Jupiter, Pluto, and Saturn are all doing in Capricorn at the moment. They're all showing us that the old way of how we establish structure and form, that's the shock. We just took it for granted. This is how it always was. And now that that shock is right in front of us, it asks the question, or it asks multiple questions. One is, sit down, be still, pay attention to your own inner space, and rediscover your reality. Rediscover the inner space. This is a time where you need to look at your space around you and ask yourself, what can I do in this moment? Read a book if you're self-isolating. Come back home, slow down. This energy is slowing down. The energy is not telling you to run rampant. It's saying you're exhausted. Slow down. Take the time to appreciate things. Recategorize, relabel, redefine your life. Free yourself from the limitations. Free yourself. Saturn going into Aquarius. Free yourself from the definition of the prior cycle. Okay? Stillness. Coming into a state of observing, being with your immediate environment, getting in touch with what's really real and important to you, making sure that your loved ones are okay, having that conversation, talking to the people that matter, develop stronger relations. And out of all the things in this space over here, come back to the essence of just being. Okay. All right, everybody, I really hope that this video gave you something to just process during this time. And for those of you that are unaware, we have a Patreon community, and on the Patreon community, we will potentially and possibly be connecting. So if you would like to participate and join our Patreon community, where we are communicating and, just really being, just trying to support as much as possible during this period of time, consider that. I'll put a link in the description for that, okay? All right, everybody, have a very safe, conscious, and still rest a few days, and we'll speak to you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.